What's up, guys? Today I am here with the Las Vegas gal, just sitting here talking for the last 20 minutes. I don't think I've met somebody so passionate about our city. She is the CEO of Cerrone Group. She sells real estate. She also brands herself very well, one of the best branding opportunities and personas that I've seen, and she gives a lot of guidance to people who are moving out here. So thank you, Laci Cerrone, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's a moment. I'm having a moment because I haven't been in front of a podcasting microphone in 4 years, 3 years, something crazy. It's been a long time. So thanks for having me.
When I was doing some research, and I want to say thank you to Christine and Noel, who are probably listening to this to give me the referral. Yeah, thank you guys. I started doing some research on you, and there is so many real estates in the market right now. It's very saturated. I think I saw a stat like 2 or 3 months ago where it was like there's 15,000 real estate agents and like 5,000 houses available. So you have to be able to brand yourself in a different way. That's just not like, hey, I'm here to sell you a house like a used car salesman.
Yeah, that was a very, very big, I don't know, that was a moment for me when I said, gosh, I don't know if I'm going to do this or not, because there are thousands and thousands of the real estate agents in town. And what for me is always such a big deterrent is when you look around and you see everybody doing it the same, And so when I came into this, I said, if I'm going to break away from the corporate world and break away from my already very successful small business, podcasting and video production, hello, I'm back. For me to break away from that and to walk into a new industry, I had to be able to do it differently. And that was my statement, my mission from day one. Yeah.
And your podcast, it was also a blast from the past for me, as I saw a bunch of higher level people. Laci started her podcast around, I think it was 2014 is what I saw on there.
Yeah, my husband actually started the podcast, and he was not my husband at the time. We didn't even know each other actually at the time, but he's now my husband, so clearly we know the end of that story. But
fell in love on air.
Yes, we did. Yeah, so it was very cool. But yes, 2014 is when he started it, and I joined a little bit later that year, and that podcast was a roller coaster for our life and an amazing one. It really helped us create the life that we're living today.
It's some amazing guests on there. John Lee Dumas, before he took up, he's one of the most popular podcasters out there now, host of Entrepreneurs on Fire, the infamous Vital Vegas, Scott Robin, who I just had on here recently, Misha Tate. Like, it was an incredible list, just because when you have guests on your show, the episodes are timeless. And so it's so cool to go back and listen to it. It brings almost like a sense of nostalgia, and were they a person of their word, and they were able to implement whatever they were preaching. Yeah,
no, it's actually, I always cringe when someone says they've gone back and listened to our old episodes. I'm like, oh God, what did we sound like? Because, that was before podcasting was podcasting. That was when podcasting was weird dudes sitting in their mom's basement, kind of hanging out, eating pot roast while they record their favorite show about whatever they're excited about. Obviously, Joe Rogan and some of the other major players were doing it back then, but it was still considered nerdy and not cool and weird, And even I mean, one of my first shows that I ever did with my then business partner, now husband, I think it was called Laci Hates Podcasting. I think that was like literally the first episode I did, and it was because I just told him, I don't want to do your stupid show. Like I came to that event to meet you or to meet people and have free drinks. I happened to meet you. We got to know each other, and then now you start this show, but I don't care about podcasting. It's stupid. And he's like, oh, you're so interesting. And then he convinced me to get on the mic. And I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I have to be able to tell the world what I really think about this stupid platform. And well, here I am. So podcast production company, 5 years later, whatever that looks like, here we are.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit into your history. You're somebody who's so passionate about Vegas. How did you end up in Vegas?
I am the product of a very unique family situation. My mom and dad are performers. So they basically had a show band that they would tour the United States with. My dad was a lead singer, kind of like Danny Gans. He did like voices and impersonations, and it was a full show. My mom was a dancer, and so this is my life. I grew up watching my parents on stage. I used to tell people my best friends were the cocktail servers who would bring me like Shirley Temples and with extra cherries, So when we lived in Kansas City, Missouri, I was born in the Midwest. We lived in Kansas City, Missouri. My mom owned a dance studio. My dad had the brand, and then they would tour and, do things like that. My life was not normal. I was the weird kid whose parents were never home for dinner. I was the weird kid who, thought dancing and singing was a way of making a living. And in the Midwest, it's not, it's weird. We had a disco ball, like a mirrored disco ball hanging in my living room, and people didn't understand that, So for me, it was a fabulous life, but it was also like just weird. And, you know, in the 80s, things dry up and live music became kind of a thing of the past. So as that shift happened, my parents said, well, crap, we got to figure this out. Let's go to Vegas. Vegas has always been good to us. My parents were flown here by the mob many times back in the day to play for parties and, you know, weddings and, you know, all of the parties that they do, and did a lot of lounge shows. And so Vegas had been good to them. So we came in 89, August of 1989. I was a wee old 9 years old. And the minute we drove into the city, I knew this is where I belonged. And it sounds so silly and like I'm making up some beautiful story, but it's true. I was in the car, back seat, smelled weird because we had just driven like 3 days, you know, we had dogs all over us. I mean, it was just a nightmare. But we drive down the city, or down the strip, pardon me, and those lights, man, something about that neon and something about that vibe, it just sucked me in.
It captures you.
It sucked me right in. And then it just continued. You know, I would go to school and all the kids would, you know, tell me what their parents did for work and this and that. And for once, I wasn't the weird kid. For once, you know, parents were dealers and cocktail servers and casino hosts and strippers, some of them, honestly. And they worked weird hours. And it just became home to me because I was for once not weird.
Yeah, it was almost taboo at the time. Everyone, when at least back then, when you think of a traditional job, you think of a corporate 9-to-5 job, and society's kind of progressing differently in a way. But when you come out here to Vegas, it's, oh yeah, like a blackjack dealer, an entertainer. It's kind of like it's a very big melting pot, to say the least. And you know, I was born in '92, so.
Oh man, hold on a minute.
But
really? Hold on a minute. Just let me chew on that for 13 seconds. My daughter was born in 2000, so at least you didn't say you were born after that. I think it's okay. I'll accept this continuation of this conversation.
Straight millennial. But we used to, when I was younger, we used to ride our bikes up to the strip. And
Me too.
We'd get kicked off the strip at 9 o'clock. The cops would be like, you middle schoolers, you can't be out here. This isn't for you. But the lights were just so captivating to us, and just walking around the hotel and hearing the slot machines chinging and just like the wildlife. And that's when live bands were still going on. And you'd walk by the lounge and hear the bands. And
I mean, as a kid, that's just life, right? That's like, this is heaven. This is vacation, you know? When I worked in the corporate world, I'm not jumping, but I just always used to make this comment. When I worked in the corporate world and I would be either running into or out of casinos in the 6 a.m., 7 a.m. for morning meetings, I always got such a kick out of seeing people, obviously the walk of shame that was going on most of the time. You know, I was part of those a couple times, but I just used to laugh and say, damn, this really is not fun, because like I want to be on vacation and I'm around people who are on vacation all day and I can't be on vacation. It just sucked.
Oh, there's no way I could get sucked into that.
It sucked.
I worked on the strip. I've held 2 jobs. I worked at a pool for 5 years, and I worked at Omnia nightclub for the last 5 years. So to me, that is a traditional job.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, for Vegas, it is. Yeah.
For customer service. And now you see different cities have taken bits and pieces of that Vegas vibe, that Vegas culture, and start translating down to like Miami and Ibiza.
They all want to be us.
They can't. But now Vegas is just thriving. Unfortunately, I've said this before on the podcast that it is a tourist dependent town, but I felt like we were starting to bridge off of tourism. There's a bunch of different industries. Now it's probably going to take a little bit longer with the lockdowns, or, you know, maybe it's in traditional COVID fashion and just accelerates the trend and people come out here.
I have a feeling it's going to do that. You know, I really feel that this year has built up and pent up so much anxiety and so much desire to just get out and be free and feel like they can make choices for themselves, you know, people, humans, all of us. So I really do feel like money will be spent differently, and probably we're going to see some interesting new industries pop up and new product types pop up. But I do see Vegas. Vegas isn't going anywhere. She's resilient. She ain't going anywhere. She's good. Sorry if I'm a little raspy. I thank you for the water, but I'm going to just do the vocal fry, and I'm just kidding. We can just keep talking.
I could just hear the old traditional podcaster in you just coming out.
Just coming on out. I'm so excited. But
But Vegas, it tends to go through rebranding periods every 10 to 20 years. When Vegas was first founded, it was for the people who were working on the dam to come over, and it was a wasteland of of prostitution and gambling, and
The good old days, you know.
The good days. Then it was like the $2 steak and eggs and $1 cocktail. And then in the 90s, it became family oriented. I don't know how well that actually did, but
I can tell you if you want. I was there during that time.
I do miss Wet n Wild though. I used to get season passes every year. They had the roller coaster at Sahara, and they had the theme park at MGM.
Yeah.
And then the most recent trend was the rise of EDM and the club scene and day clubs. And I felt like the next trend was going to be conventions and sports. But according to Sheldon Adelson, he doesn't think conventions are going to come back.
Yeah,
So.
the convention thing is a big question mark for me as well, which is a shame because look at how much real estate and large buildings and how many jobs are really tied to it. So I hope he's wrong, genuinely. I just think that it's going to be a new version. You know, I mean, obviously virtual conferences and things like that are popping up everywhere, and they have been for years and years. But, you know, obviously the minute the world realized what Zoom was, you know, everything changed, right? So meanwhile, us podcasters from back in the day have known what Zoom was for like 8 years.
I had no idea what it was. They were like Zoom. I was like, Skype?
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's like Skype, but it's
better.
not.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you lost the industry race when people still say, hey, Skype me, even though they mean to Zoom me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, where are you from, bro? Yeah, it's like, oh, my email is whatever at AOL.com. And you're like, oh, okay. We're still there, huh?
So what was it like for you for growing up in Vegas once you came out here and your family was moved into the industry and, you know, residencies? And residencies was almost like residencies back then were a little bit more taboo to say taboo again, whereas now everyone wants a residency.
Yeah.
But back then there was like almost like that's like your end.
Yeah,
that's the end
people
of your career.
assumed it was. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I forgot about that. People assumed it was like, oh, you're just like Wayne Newton now. You can just go die in Vegas and shrivel up in the desert. But the reality is Vegas created that industry here, I think, and then residencies became a thing across the world. So I just do think there's so much industry and so many ideas and sparks that start here that are either made better elsewhere or that just are never the same elsewhere. But I love that about our city. I love that we have so many great ideas that are able to come to life because of how fast we have to move to stay, you know, with trends and things like that. It's pretty exciting. Growing up here was awesome. I don't know. I mean, and I will say growing up, you know, starting at 9, landing in town, falling in love with the city, you know, that was all wonderful. My family obviously struggled like most families did in the 80s, especially being entertainers. So money was always tight. I changed schools literally every year of my life until 10th grade, literally every single year, sometimes twice in a year. So when you say, what was it like growing up in Vegas? It was great. I tried every single school on for size, and I checked to make sure that they were a good fit or not. And that was really a product of my family just struggling and working through, you know, money issues as well as, you know, the desire to kind of make a life for themselves. So, but if you take all the money and the crap aside, you know, growing up here was really special. I feel like we are lucky. We people of my generation are lucky because we got to see the city before the invention of the internet, and we got to see the city in its truest form. You know, when you had to really hustle and really work hard to pull in those clientele and pull in the tourists or to really communicate with the locals. We were the beginning of what it meant to be a Las Vegas local. You know, we were the beginning of creating areas in town where kids could actually go. Because I'll be honest, growing up here as a kid, there wasn't much to do. You know, the Strip was where we went. Like that's
Get to
what
play hide and go seek every day.
Yeah, and you know, this Crystal Palace Skating Center was great.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
We had those sleepovers on New Year's Eve where everybody made out in the corners. You know, that was fine. But like, you know, it was non-traditional, I guess is the best way to wrap that up. It just was a beautiful non-traditional mess, and I loved it. I mean, and a very different experience from what you had because you were a generation after me. But I just love it, you know, and I loved being able to watch this city evolve and grow and change. And I really feel like I identified and aligned with the city as a heartbeat, truly. Like I think of the city as a person. And I feel like it was, you know, anytime I would fall and scrape my knee in my career or life or whatever, I would look at what was going on around me in the city and realize like, oh, I'm gonna be fine. I'm just gonna follow what the heck's going on here. So it was pretty cool.
The city's so tapped into each other. As we were texting right before this, your friend actually owned the coffee shop that's downstairs, and I was like, of course, traditional Vegas. It's the smallest big town out there.
Yes, it is. That's one of my favorite things though. You know, I mean, it's great when you are meeting people because it's easy to make connections and easy to like deepen that relationship quickly, but it's also not great when you're trying to hide out and just get away from people for a minute. But I'll take the better side of that versus the other one all day.
Vegas is really like, instead of having the 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon, I say it's always 1 to 2 degrees of separation out here. Everyone is literally just one text message, one Instagram DM away from saying, oh, this person is my trainer, or this person's my hairstylist. And you're just like, oh, of course.
I don't want that to go away. That is something I definitely worry about as the city continues to kind of explode in popularity, largely due to how cheap it is to live here and things like that. And I get nervous about every 6 months when I see the new, numbers coming out and all we've got this many people coming each month. And I just go, just don't lose it. Just don't lose this essence, and so far we've been okay with it. I think so far the city's hanging on to what's really kind of real here.
It has transitioned into that. The one concern I have about the separation is you see in the newer areas of cities, when people ask me or come out here and ask me like where to buy a house, I always say you either want to go to Summerlin or Henderson. Typically, Henderson's more open, has its own jurisdiction, but once you go to Summerlin, there's a lot of communities in there, and that's kind of my fear is like, the more like separate housing communities you build, the more separated people want to be, because they're like, oh, these are my people. Right. Whereas like when you're in North Vegas and East Vegas, that's you just identify as an East Side Vegas person. That's
a really good point. First of all, stop telling people Henderson and Summerlin are the only places to live, because they're not.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, please allow me to educate you a little bit on but you're right. You're right as far as that goes. And actually, each side of the city is actually being set up kind of like that. The master plan communities are really popular right now. And I think that they make a lot of sense because they keep a continuity to what the city feels like. They don't allow it to be like, oh, one street over is that random empty lot next to a 7-Eleven, next to a horse property. There are some random areas in town that look just like that. In fact, I'm sure you just pictured two while I was saying it. So I love that about our city. I love that we have the option to give people that master plan community feel so they don't have to worry about any of that. And I love the option that we are giving people a chance to move into a city that offers you both. I just think it's cool. I think we have options, and I think that's really important to focus on when we're talking to people who want to move here, because I don't want anybody to come here thinking it's one way. It's not, and that's the best part of our city is it's whatever you want it to be. You can literally make whatever life you want in this city, just depending on where you live, what kind of things you get into, and frankly, who you meet.
It's a very diverse, and it's not just culturally diverse either. It's diverse in all the different jobs and economic diverse, philosophical diversity. Yeah. Like there's so many different ways. There's a dentist who's living next to a hedge fund manager, who's living next to a cocktail waitress and a bartender. It's like, you really have no idea who your next door neighbor could be just because of how much opportunity there is out here.
It's the best. I just love it. And it's funny because at 9 years old, when I moved into the city and I started to really feel out what the heck's going on around me, the first thing that annoyed me and that really gave me pause and kind of, I think, set me on this life's mission that I've been on for since I was 9, is when all my friends would write me letters and say, what are they teaching you in school? Cocktail serving? Or are they teaching you how to, deal craps or deal poker? And what hotel do you live in? And it was just like a constant misunderstanding of how the city works and what jobs really are available here beyond the city and the casino. And then it continued. I'm a teenager and I'm meeting people that are moving into town, or I'm traveling for work in my early 20s, and all these people in other cities are, you live in Vegas? What hotel do you live in? And it would enrage me. I would just get so upset. So since 9, I've been pen pal writing people, telling them this is the city that you need to move to and you're missing out. And then as a young 20s, when I was traveling for work, it was every barista, every taxi driver, and every concierge and every front desk person that I bumped into during my business trip. It was my job to convince them that Vegas was the best city in the world. And all my friends that traveled with me were annoyed and not happy. Like, Laci, shut up. Nobody cares about Las Vegas. I'm like, I care. It's my job. Get away. I just get away. I am Las Vegas gal. I need everybody to know that this is the greatest place. So
you've literally been branding since you're younger.
I have. I know. And I never called it Las Vegas gal, but I have genuinely been selling the city, not because of real estate. I don't give a crap if you ever buy a house from me. I just want you to love living here. And that's been my mission forever. So all that you just said about you never know your neighbor and it's really cool and the melting pot, those are things that I've like back pocket, man. Let me tell you something else. Oh, let me pull something else out for you. Let me show you're never going to get me off or you're never going to get off on me not living Las Vegas. You're going to always lose that battle.
And something about Las Vegas, a fact that doesn't get brought up a lot, and the thing that I guess the States or United States likes to harp on all the time is like the educational standards of Nevada. It's always in the bottom tier, one of the last states. But what isn't a statistic is the amount of entrepreneurs that live out here. Like you literally can't count. There's no statistic for it. But what happens a lot of times is you have all these different opportunities out here on the strip, and you can make 6 figures doing, serving or whatever the case is. And as long as you don't get caught in the cycle and give it back, sometimes we get stuck doing that for a year or two, you know.
Ballet,
anything
banquet
like
servers,
that.
cocktail servers. Those are very lucrative jobs that you don't want to leave.
Yeah, and then they go on and you build something on the side. Like that happens time and time again. I had Michael Naft on here. He's the Clark County Commissioner for pretty much the entire Henderson area.
Yes.
And he told me his region alone has 45,000 filed LLCs.
Wow.
It's insane.
Wow.
Like, and if you think about only we'll just say 1 million people there, it's probably less, but I'm just going to say that's an easy number. If my math is right, then it's 1 in 20 people have a business.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It's a crazy stat.
And you're right. That is something I wish somebody would really, like a Harvard study or something would come out about, because I do feel like that. First of all, I love that you literally speak about this city as I do. It's warming my heart, genuinely hearing you say things. I'm like, this is finally one person I don't have to sell. This is amazing. You know, like, thank you for being so passionate about our city. You know, this is such a special place, and it's so cool to see someone in their young years, because I feel old these days, just turned 41 a few days ago.
There's no way. There's no way.
Thank you, sir. Please say that again in 5 minutes. But it's just really cool. So thank you. But to your point, I just really wish people would understand that exact thing that you just said, that is the essence of Las Vegas. It's opportunity. It's opportunity and freedom to figure it out, you know? And it's one of the reasons I am super passionate about small businesses. It's one of the reasons I have devoted a huge section of my business, my time, my energy to promoting small businesses in town, because I feel like if I have something in my brain that I could help you with, like if it's hey, here's a tactic on Instagram that might work for you, or here's someone I know that might help you grow your business that way, then it's my duty to give that away and to help that person grow. Like, why would I hold on and hoard that information? And about the city, understanding the essence of that part of the city, I think is this first step in really doing it right.
Yeah. When I went to your website, that was literally the first thing that stuck out to me. It wasn't like you were trying to sell me a house immediately.
Right.
The first thing was you had a list of all of these different small businesses listed. I think there was I have it written down here. There was a living local, small biz, Vegas love, family friendly, food drink. You literally had everything partitioned and separated.
Yes.
Based off of what you believe was right and to help promote it.
Yeah, to me, when I set up the website and the brand for Las Vegas Gal, it was super important to me that it had nothing to do with selling houses. It's about living your best Las Vegas life. The website's a little outdated, but give it a month and it'll be updated here in a minute. But really, no, I mean, it's just
foreshadowing,
but
a little foreshadowing, guys.
Updated with good stuff. But no, truly, it's just that it's been such a crazy year. You know, you go, do I write a blog post and update that, or do I go help somebody else find where they're going to live in the city, or do I help another small business or whatever? So it's been choices all year long. But even with that being said, you know, it's just it's a huge part of who I am, helping others and really helping others see what's possible inside them, whether it's their business, whether it's they don't have a clue what they want to do with their life. My husband and I have a tendency to mentor people that even if they don't want to be mentored, unfortunately, but mentor people just because we see potential. And when I realized that he was cut from that same cloth that I am, and that he had as big of a heart for people and for their journey, not ours, not how can we make money off of them. It's never that. It's how can we let them see the light, because we've seen the light and we want everybody to be over here dancing in the sun with us. And we just had kind of a big conversation the other day about that. I said, man, my 40th year around the sun is now done, and I'm going into 41, and I'm looking around us saying, we just have amazing magnetism right now with these small baby entrepreneurs, whether they're in real estate, whether they're small business owners, whether they're auto body shop. I mean, literally every industry. And we just feel super honored that we get to have a front row seat to other people's journey. It's just so special. And in this city, it's time and time again. And I think that's it's because it's so often that it happens. I think that's part of my addiction to Las Vegas.
It's the culture.
It's the best.
It's getting bred in.
It's the best.
I love it so much, because that is one of the reasons why I had to move down into this downtown area. I'm
super jealous, by the way. It's a very cool area. I'm very jealous.
I just had on a gentleman, his name is Paul. He founded this company called For the Culture. And the main thesis behind that company is he believes that Vegas is comprised of multiple subcultures.
Yes,
and
we are.
And he's trying to build a company to, I guess, bridge those gaps together. And it was events. Now he can't do events anymore, but now they brand it out into media and things as well. And he was bringing up different cultures of Vegas that I didn't even realize. He talked about East Vegas. There's a big car culture down in that area.
Yes.
He talked about the graffiti area, culture, which is now art. They're painting another mural right outside this apartment building. And so I hadn't even realized that until I talked to him, is Vegas isn't just one culture.
No way.
There's multiple ones. It doesn't have, it's almost like a identity-less city.
Yeah.
But like when people identify Vegas, they think of the Strip. But for all the locals, or even a lot of the podcasters of Vegas, they talk a lot of times about the things that are happening off the Strip. And now like a lot of people are transitioning down to downtown. That's what Scott from Vital Vegas said, that he believes downtown could overtake like the Strip and a lot of the customers because of the culture they're breeding down there.
Couldn't agree with him more. I could not agree with him more. I think that the Strip needs a little bit of humble pie. I said it, and I'm sorry, Aria, but I said it the minute they broke ground on Aria. My heart broke a little bit because it felt like lost. And again, we needed it, right? That was a part of our growth. So it's all good, but it definitely broke my heart a little bit because I saw the skyline change. And I saw the makeup of our city become far more bougie and far more, stick your nose in the air and it's all about the money. And yes, of course it is. Of course we need that. But we're losing in that a little bit of the essence of really what makes the city so amazing and what people really do love. They don't love the nightclub EDM, some people do, but the real essence, the underbelly, the undercurrent of this amazing city is that you have the choice of what kind of culture you want to be a part of. You have the choice of how to participate in our city. And it's no longer show up and you either, like in New York, if you're not walking fast, you're going to get run over. In Vegas, it's decide what you want to do. We'll roll with you, and I love that.
Yeah, plentiful opportunity to indulge, not just in professions, but also in entertainment as well.
I have a tendency to indulge in too many professions. That's my bad habit there because of I think that just hit me. Oh my God, I just had an aha moment.
Ding.
Bing. You can just do a little ding sound there for me. I just realized that might be, obviously the greatest thing about this city, but it might also have been why my husband and I get so, oh my God, there's so much opportunity. We can't choose what to start first, second, third. So, man, what an amazing place to be and what an amazing time to live, to be able to have that statement come out of my mouth. Like there's so much opportunity, so many ideas. What should I do first? Wow.
So just going along the lines of opportunity, is that the same idea that you had when you and your husband at your time started the Cerrone show?
Yeah, so he started the show. I'll give the very quick summary of how to start it because it's a cool story. He and I both were working in the corporate world. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, although we had the same friends and went to the same parties in high school. So I don't know how we didn't know each other, but we didn't. So we I went to a conference for podcasting. It was called New Media Expo, which is no longer in existence. I think it was bought up by NAB, National Association of Broadcasters. And so I went for free drinks because my friend invited me, had no idea what I was walking into. I just wanted a free cocktail and to hang out. Walked into a group of people who were talking about podcasting and I wanted to puke. I'm not going to lie. I was like, ew, what are we doing here? This is like a bunch of nerds and I just need to get out of here. And ew, honestly, I don't even act like that, but I just genuinely was like, I have nothing to talk about anything with these people. Met Chris. We realized we were the only two locals there. Everybody else was from out of town. So we kind of stepped to the side and chatted and realized we knew almost everyone. And what he told me was that he had just basically been, his company he was working for was bought out. He was offered a huge, very lucrative position in New York City. He actually had gone to the city. He had looked for an apartment or a house for his family at the time. I mean, like genuinely was like ready to move. Multiple $1 million he was going to make and he just was driving across the bridge and realized like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to be in a car. I'm not going to see my kids. This isn't what I want. So he turned it down, came home and decided to start a podcast. He heard John Lee Dumas and said, if this dude can do it, I can do it. And then he started it and his show was very much like yours. So I'm having a lot of like all the feels, very, very much like yours about interviewing cool people. That's all I wanted to do was just talk to cool people.
It's almost identical.
Oh, and that was his actual verbatim line. I'm like, what's your podcast about? Even though I care nothing about podcasts, what's that about? And he said, I just want to interview cool people. And that's what we did. And so when we met, he started the show. He kind of went offline for a few months as he was in his closet, like recording, doing all the crazy stuff. But about 2 months in, I called and said, hey, I need an accountability partner. I'm really trying to kind of formulate what the heck I'm going to do with my life. And you and I seem to really kind of connect. Can we talk? He invited me to be a part of the show. I said no. Invited me again. I said no, and then obviously the rest is history. But he started it with the mindset of, I just feel like if I can earn an income while talking to cool people, why wouldn't I give it a shot? I just got bought out. I have a little bit of a severance. My family's doing okay financially for a minute. Let me see what we can do. And within 5 minutes of us both being on the microphone, we both knew we had something very special. From a friendship perspective, at the time I was married, he was married, and P.S. we didn't get a divorce because of each other. That was already happening on both sides. And we're all still very good friends and everything's great. But with all that being said, like he had a small dream of whatever. And all it took was just, stepping forward. And really the tipping point was when we did it together. And we had two voices who were, equally passionate about the same stuff, but also learning about themselves at the same time. And it just exploded. It was great.
As we were saying before this, when I'd stumbled across the podcast and started listening to it, I was like, oh my God, this is the exact same show. That was the same thought that I had.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap.
You're doing a great job. Seriously.
Thank
it's
you.
really, really cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, why did you guys stop?
It's funny. We ask ourselves that a lot. I think we were a little too early. I think also Chris and I, again, as I mentioned before, like we live in a city of opportunity. That's all we see is opportunity around us. And so he and I both being super entrepreneurial, don't like to put our feet too far in the mud. We want to be able to be maneuverable and jump into something new if we need to. So for us, we made a very early decision, very conscious decision about after our first 1 million downloads on the podcast. It was like 9 months in.
That's a milestone, ladies and gentlemen.
9 months in, we hit 1 million downloads, which was a huge, at the time I didn't know anybody that had 1 million downloads. Joe Rogan maybe, but we had never met anybody. So it was kind of cool. We made that decision. I said, well, what are we going to do now? Like, are we going to stick with this or what are we going to build a business off of it? What's going to happen? And we did try to build a couple of little coaching businesses and things like that. And finally just ended up consulting and doing what we know we do best and we know can bring in enough money for each of our families at the time to survive. So we just decided, listen, let's let this be a creative outlet. Let's let this open us doors. Let's let this help us figure out what we want to be when we grow up. And that's what we used it for. And we had a hard time letting go of it because, I was mentioning before we got on the microphone, which, by the way, someone should do a show before the show because that's usually when all the good stuff comes out. You should probably do a show before the show.
I tweet all the time. My favorite part's actually the post-conversation afterwards.
Mm-hmm. So maybe keep recording. But I don't know. That could be bonus content for your followers. But
Patreon coming soon.
Exactly right. But, we just loved talking to people so much. We didn't want to taint the waters. We didn't want to take money for it. We just started feeling like we wanted to keep it pure. And that's what we did. It put us on stages throughout the United States. We were mentioned in magazines. People have us mentioned in their books. Like those are all wonderful things for our ego. But the thing that filled us up was what we're doing right now was just talking to people. And we just didn't want to, at the time, before there was any business model or there was anything that anybody had done, we didn't know that we wanted to taint that. And we didn't want to get too tied into it because we could tell that we were learning who we wanted to be through the podcast. So we let it open doors. We met some of our childhood heroes. We have now got a podcast video production company that nobody knows about because they don't need to know about it. It's white label. We go to who we want to work with and that's only it. And we're referral based only and it's amazing. And it's awesome. So I'm just super grateful. We do a lot of hashtag thank you podcasting because podcasting has made our life possible today. And I'm just so grateful.
I'm so glad to hear that because that's actually like almost identical to the same philosophy that I have applied to it as well. I had a gentleman on here. His name is Travis Chappell. He's like a top business podcaster that lives out here. He said that what he had realized about podcasting and why he started his is that you get to share credibility with people of influence. And so for that hour, 2 hours or 20 minutes or whatever the case is, you're tapping into their mind and you're essentially on the same plateau or stage that they're on.
Yeah.
And then you have their credibility and their thanks for whenever you go out and post the podcast. And then it becomes almost like a social hierarchy where you're like, oh, I had Magic Johnson on my show. Then you could get Michael Jordan, and it's just like it's a never-ending feedback loop, which is amazing to hear. And
you really learn so much about yourself when you're hearing what other people have gone through. And if you're smart, which you obviously are very smart, you're getting this. Like, you're using this to create whatever kind of an entrepreneur you're going to be, and you're being an entrepreneur while you're doing that, but you're evolving. And I don't think anybody ever really talks about that side of it. We didn't. No, I was coming from the corporate world. I took a full year to kind of even figure out who I was. I still don't know who I am half the time, but it was through other people's struggles and conversations about dreaming that I really learned how to dream. And I started dreaming and I started reaching I thank podcasting. So hashtag thank you podcasting. Oh, hashtags, throw it up there. Bing, bing, bing. Bing. It's probably one of the best leveraging opportunities that you can get as far as something that's not just financially lucrative. Right. Because something that I had realized, I actually had this epiphany recently, was a lot of people, when they ask me about the podcast, the first thing they ask me is, when are you monetizing? Yeah. How are you making money? And I'm just like, that's not the point right now.
the beautiful thing about podcasting and about capitalism is that the longer that you hold off on something, the more exponential the return is, whether you want it in prestige or you want it in some sort of like financial incentive. But with podcasting, once you gain some credibility, you can leverage different products on top of it. I noticed a bunch of people write books on top of it. A lot of people have business spinoffs, like you had the podcast creation company. Like there's so many different opportunities for it, but you don't want to dive too much headfirst in if you don't know what it is. So the best to do is just keep building your network, because I had this conversation with one of my friends recently, which kind of sparked the idea of a podcast. Is after we graduated college, we were like, man, it's hard to meet new people today, because when you're in college, everyone is just confused on what you want to do. No one really has that many defined paths. So you're basically just going down these paths together. After a few years of college, everyone's path is pretty much predefined. And so it's harder to make those intersections. But I was like, all right, so how do I meet these people? And it's easy to just say, hey, I have a podcast, because this person who maybe didn't have time to give you 5 minutes, now they'll give you 2 hours of their time, and you can basically pick their brain.
It's crazy to me to hear you saying all of this, because we, as a part of our love for this industry and for this, it's an industry now. First of all, how crazy is that?
Right.
Because it was not that when I started.
I literally started 8 months ago, and I've seen probably 100 different podcasts pop up since then. And I was like, I thought I was late to the game.
And it doesn't matter, because you're in the game. That's all that matters. But it's just so crazy to hear you saying the things that Chris and I were so passionately teaching other podcasters back in the day for free. You know, we started the Las Vegas Podcasters Meetup, where we were gathering once a month for about 4 or 5 years over at the Switch building. You know, they had these beautiful rooms that you could utilize AV. And I mean, it was a gorgeous meetup, and they let us do it for free because we were sharing free education. So we were teaching this thing once a month. We would get anywhere from 60 to 100 people every month.
Oh, that's huge.
Every single month. There was only maybe 3 out of the couple of years that we did it that there was less than 40 people. But I mean, we always got a huge draw. And the constant message was, stop trying to make money on it. If you're gonna do this, you have to take money off the table, not for a year, not for 2 years, maybe even longer. Like, you have to realize this is such a different beast. It's not a tick for tat. Oh, I did this, now I need to get that out. And the people who do monetize too early are gone. And that's the part for me that it's crazy. So it genuinely felt like you were regurgitating past lessons and presentations that I had taught during our 4 or 5 years of doing the Las Vegas Podcasters Meetup before we shut it down last year. And it's like crazy to me, because how did you gain all this knowledge being such a young, bright kid who's just, I'm sorry to call you a kid, but
that's fine.
Just breaking into this. Like, I'm just really impressed, and I'm happy and I'm thanking whoever's out there. Thank you for finally getting over the hump of, I just want to be an online entrepreneur and I want to make a lot of money and I'm gonna sell a course, and listen, you can do that if it's great and if it's intuitive to you, but you see bigger, and I'm so honored to be sitting with you right now, knowing that you are doing it the way it should be done. Thank you. Yeah.
I've been a fan of podcasting for 2 years now. I actually came up with the idea about 2 years ago, but this is when I was running my 2 other businesses. And I was like, okay, I can't over leverage myself. I've done this way too many times in my lifetime. And then I sat around and I wanted somebody to do this show. And we talked about this before, that you kind of did the same thing, waiting for someone to do it, because I like being a fan, you know? I like being a consumer. I don't have to be the jealous guy who's like, he stole my show.
There's plenty of pie, for everyone.
There's plenty of pie. And so once everything shut down, I was like, all right, I guess it's now or never. Like, this is the best time to do it. I keep emphasizing this, and my audience probably knows what I'm about to say, because I've said this 400 times on the podcast, but 2020 is the best rebranding opportunity we're going to get in our lifetime.
And then some. I just wish people could hear what that really means, because it really, really is. It's also not even just rebranding, but reinvention of who you're going to be in life. You know, the world may not ever look the same again. And if it never looks the same again, are you going to still sit around and be mad about the fact that, you know, you're sitting in your house or you have to wear a mask? No, get off your butt and make something happen. That's what I keep saying to people too. It's hard though, when people are down and in this like depression kind of mindset, which is like a malaise on the whole year. You know, we've all kind of felt it. It's really hard to pull each other out. And I love what you were saying before when we were talking about there's enough pie for everyone. That's the main message. And I mean, I really wish I could do a podcast called There's Enough Pie for Everyone, figure out how to collaborate, because that's what I want people to do. You know, I do it in my industry now. I help other realtors. I'm I'm not greedy, and I never was when we were podcasters. We gave it away for free, you know?
I try to tell everyone that podcasting's a non-zero sum game.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the presidency where there can be one.
Yeah.
And it's still about 50% of the United States even listens to podcasts, but they say the average podcast listener is a dedicated one. It's
They
like
are.
6 to 10 average shows. I think I'm like 3 times that.
Yeah,
but,
that's awesome.
But I was like, but if we can even turn, another 25% of that in Vegas, then there's 6 to 10 shows open per person.
Yeah.
So I was like, why not get you on? Why not us do like a guest swap and I go on your show, you go on my show. Like
that's how we grew. That's
exposure.
how we got to 1 million downloads in 9 months. That is how we did it. It wasn't because we had some crazy marketing. I wasn't even doing what I know how to do in marketing. I mean, I have a pretty strong marketing background. I hardly used it at all for the show. We just stayed focused, interviewed cool people, and hoped that they would share it. But really, more than ever, we helped each other out. And that's collaboration over competition every day. That's my life.
That's the way that society's trending now. You can't compete anymore.
No,
you can't.
There's no need to. There's no need. There's enough pie for everyone. There's so much money out there. There's so much opportunity out there. There's so much wealth in knowledge out there. Like, get in there and get yours, and then help the guy next to you so he can get some too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Big believer in that.
One of my favorite Silicon Valley philosophers, his name is Naval. He always says that we live in an age of infinite leverage.
Yep.
Like you have different jobs and professions that are not online.
Yep.
Now the majority of them are online. You leverage a podcast. Everyone has to be a content creator at some point.
Yes.
I thought content creation was such a cop out for the longest time until I started it. I was so against it for such a long time. I was like, oh, these fucking YouTubers going on here just asking for subscriptions. And now I'm like, please subscribe to my show.
Exactly.
Like, I get it,
right?
I get it. They
don't know unless you ask, right?
I always thought like the content is king. That phrase I always thought was so quirky. I was like,
Not me, dude. I was singing that before I went to bed and when I woke up.
I didn't get it. Yeah. I mean, content is queen for you.
Yes.
Like you're killing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You definitely branded yourself, especially in the real estate market, where, as we kind of said before, there's so many real estate agents. You can't just be that person who's like, hey, I'm here to sell you a house. Like you have to offer more and you have to be relatable.
Yeah. From a marketing perspective, I do have a pretty strong marketing background. I was fortunate enough to come up in the casino business, because that's a normal job here in Las Vegas. And I was fortunate that I didn't have to have a degree to do it. I think that's one thing about Vegas that might be going away a little bit, which is okay. But that I was fortunate to grow up in the age of Vegas when you didn't need a degree to be given an opportunity or a chance at a job. And some of our local casinos gave me an opportunity to learn advertising and marketing and, the old school way, because casinos are about 12 to 15 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to marketing. But it did teach me the basics and the foundations. And then breaking into podcasting and literally when I went to Cirque du Soleil and I was director of marketing there, we were doing some new stuff that was kind of cool and collaborations, partnerships, and then social media was really just kicking off at that time. I mean, it had been kicked off, but it was just kind of finding its stride. And, for me, when I stepped into this world, I just looked around and I was like, why is everybody acting like it's 1982 and there's like not a camera that can take a picture that doesn't look like you're literally standing in front of a green screen with a fake background? Like, why is everybody so worried about their hair? Why is everybody so worried about making it look like they're bougie and stacks of money flying? Like, people who buy houses and people who are trying to figure out where to live don't give a crap about how much money you're making. They want to know how you're going to help them and how you're going to really care about their situation. And it just was so obvious to me. I didn't understand it. And then I realized after I got into the industry, and by the way, there's 19,000 realtors in this town now. Because when the going's good, everyone shows up. And then when it's not, it'll be back down to probably 12 here in a couple months. But what's amazing is, I stepped into the industry very jaded with what, like you were saying, stepping into the industry, I'm going, how am I going to make myself stand out? Like, what am I going to do? I can't do it like these people. This is crazy. And then I realized it's just lack of education and lack of confidence. Realtors are made up of the real estate industry is made up of people who don't want a boss. They don't want any structure, but they want to make a lot of money. And so you've got to figure out how to balance that, And so seeing that, you're seeing personalities that aren't used to getting up every day and doing the same thing. They're just waiting for that phone to ring so they can jump and go when they need to. So I had to take a different approach. And I came in saying, I don't care if you buy a house. Because I really don't. I mean, yeah, if I give you all the goods and I do really cool videos for you and we're talking for hours and I'm giving you my time, then hey, you better call me when it's time to buy. But at the end of the day, I just want people to love the city like I do. I want this city to be filled with locals who love the city like you and who love the city like me and like Scott Robin and like our friends at 360 Vegas. Like there are people in the city who get it and I want everybody to get it. And I just made that commitment. And so I posted and didn't tell anybody I knew for a year that I was a realtor. I didn't want anybody to go, oh, Laci's a realtor now. I already have 18 realtors in my family. I can't call her. I didn't care. I didn't care about my current friends and family. And I mean, I did, but I didn't care about them knowing. I just wanted people to hear what I had to say about Vegas. I didn't say a word about anything related to real estate for months. And then when I finally did, people were like, what the hell? You do real estate too? You know, it was really cool to see that I was able to build a brand and build a messaging platform all about being a Las Vegas local. And my heart exploded.
So perfect. When did you start real estate?
2017, end of 2017. So October 31st, 2017, sold my first house December, sold my second house January. And most people do 1-2 deals in their first year. I did 16.
Wow.
And I didn't tell anybody I knew that I was a realtor. Like nobody in my family knew, obviously, but nobody in my friends, nobody in my work, none of my networks. And that was probably a dumbass thing to do. I'm just going to be honest. But I was like in this weird mode of like, I need to prove I can do it without any help. And I did. And Instagram was amazing. And I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with the people who I connected with. And I'm friends with many of them now. Some of them work for me. Some of them are relocated to Las Vegas to work with me on my team. Wow. Genuinely, because they found me on Instagram. Like, how weird is that? How weird is that? You know, but that's true connection. Like, you can really do that.
If you can attribute one, I guess you'd say one skill that you learned or one quality that kind of put you ahead to have 16 sales in that first year, what would you attribute it to?
It was my mission of not selling houses. Like, I genuinely went at it. Like, I don't care if you buy a house. What do you need to know? I don't care if you want, what, just tell me. I'll answer any questions. I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm not even going to put you in a CRM. I'm not going to follow up with you. Just tell me what you need to know. And if you're serious about buying, let it be me, because you can tell I care enough to reach out and give you this for free. So obviously I'm here for the right reasons, and it worked.
That's smart. So you're not coming off as that used car salesman. I think
Correct.
That's like, that position probably has the worst stigma out of any career. And that a lot of people get compared to that.
We do.
They know, like, when you're going to sell a used car, they're trying to pretty much nickel and dime you for every penny.
Yeah.
But if you go in with I always say lead with passion in whatever that you're doing, monetize later. Or else people will see whatever corners you're trying to cut behind that.
The other big thing I did that I teach, I mean, I started, before I even got my license, I started teaching realtors how to do social media, because I just was tired of seeing it done wrong. And I'm like, guys, like, it's really not hard. Let me show you. And I would write down on a board and do a 2 or 3 hour class and say, this is exactly what I do daily. Like, you don't have to change anything. Just put your face instead of my face and talk about whatever. Nobody would do it. They could not get over how they looked, how they sounded. So video made a huge, huge difference. They could hear my inflection. They could hear my passion. They could see my face. One of my favorite things to say to I've probably taught over 400 realtors how to do Instagram and how to do, you know, what I've done. Maybe 3 have done anything with it. Maybe 3. And that's a real maybe on that one. Wow. And which is so sad. And it's because it's an industry that's so worried about appearances. And so, I mean, look, I'm wearing a ripped t-shirt on purpose. Like, I purposely wear jeans when I meet people. I really want to be approachable. Does that bring me a lot of really high-end bougie clients? No. Do I care? No, I don't care, because those are not my people. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. If they don't call me, they're not my people. But for me, video and being willing to not care. I would get on with my hair wacky after I just woke up. I get on with smeared makeup, like purposely going at it in a way that shows people I'm authentic and that I really do care. And that was the biggest thing, video and just showing up and selling Vegas, not selling houses.
I think that's like the biggest barrier to entry in content creation as well, is people are just afraid to sound terrible if they're podcasting or look bad on Instagram. If you go back to episode 0 that I posted, it's cringeworthy. It's literally 4 minutes of me monotone. Like, I know I'm terrible, but I'm going to be vulnerable with you, but I know what I want to do. And you just grow over time.
I was starting to say, and it tied right into what you just said perfectly. My favorite things to say to these classes, I would stand up in front of them and I would go, okay, everybody take out your phone. Okay, turn on your camera, face it towards your face. Everybody looking at your face? Cool. That's your face. Love it. Fall in love with it. Take a look at it. Now do video with that face. And people, I don't like my hair and I need to get my roots. And it was just, it just blew my mind. Men and women could not put themselves out there vulnerably like you did on episode 0, vulnerably like I did with wacky hair and makeup smeared and didn't care. And that's the barrier. It's the vulnerability. People are so afraid of being judged. And I'm sorry, but nobody's paying my bills but me. So I got to get out there and earn that money and figure it out.
And honestly, no one's really even paying attention to your hair being messed up. They're there to derive value from whatever that they're watching.
I used to say, that's the same face you show up to in-person meetings with your clients with, right? So if you're worried about that face that you got, you might want to just quit the business, because that's your face. So fall in love with it And I promise you, nobody cares about what your hair looks like. Nobody cares about whether you've brushed your teeth, and nobody cares at all that you're making it rain, showing your Rolexes, showing your Lambos. Nobody cares. Show up for people. That's what they care about. They want you there for them. This is a service industry. It ain't about you. So it's hard for people who are used to it being about them and thinking they need to put on some bullshit persona. It's hard for them to get their heads around that.
Now that the real estate market's been taking off, I know it's at like the average median of a house is like 400 grand or something like that I just saw. Since you started, have you seen a change in the clienteles of people who are trying to purchase a house in Vegas?
Yeah, so I'm lucky. My team and I set out to change the industry as well, which I can talk about later, but like I ended up having to form a team because the response to me, especially when I hit YouTube, but YouTube and Instagram was so much that it was overwhelming. I couldn't handle it. I was working 22 hours a day. It was nuts. So I actually have a team of people now who work with me, who are hand chosen, who are just like me, who we all serve in the same manner. But we've all been kind of discussing recently how we've noticed we do mostly relocation, right? So we do about 95% relocation. We love our locals, but most of our content's geared towards people who want to fall in love with Vegas, right? So that's wonderful. We get to meet people and actually be the first thing they experience when they come here. Can you make my day any better? I don't think so, right? So for me, we've been noticing really recently a shift in people who've never, ever imagined or thought they could buy a home, actually thinking it could be possible because they can do it here. So a lot of California people, of course, the stat I was using last year was 77% of our new residents come from California. I'm pretty sure it's a little higher now with all the new laws out there. They've some stuff that they've done. And then of course with COVID, you can work anywhere now. For the most part, people are able to work in any city they want. So because of that, they now have an opportunity to choose where they want to actually have their lifestyle, unfold. And what I love is there are people who never in a million years, whether it be New York, San Francisco, or California, or whatever other city you can come up with that's too damn expensive, never in a million years did they ever consider buying a house. And now, because of the content we're telling them, it is possible. Do not move here and rent. Do not waste your money. Come here and earn money. Pay yourself a salary at the end of the day by living in a house you own. And so we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of people who are like, well, as of last month, I get to be remote and work wherever I want. So I've always wanted to live in Vegas. Tell me more, and that's so exciting to see, that's coming from all this crap that we've gone through this year, that the opportunity is being presented for people to have choice that they didn't have before. So we've been stuck at home and all the crap that we've all been going through across this nation. But through that, we're seeing new choices we've never been able to make before. That's huge. And that is a huge, great reshuffle, if you will, of how this city as well as this country is going to be working moving forward.
Yeah, that is amazing. I know a lot of people give the Vegas real estate market flack because of how high the prices have surged compared to 10 years ago or even before the last crisis.
Right.
But it's still much cheaper than it is in California. Mm-hmm. And there's no state taxes as well. And now there's a mass exodus out of New York, California.
Everywhere, San Francisco.
A lot of places. Yeah, they're trying to get out of the metropolises and into something a little bit more spacey.
I think the political stuff going on right now is also contributing. I know a lot of people are shifting. If they live in a red state and they don't like it, they're trying to find a blue state. If they're living in a blue state and they don't like it, obviously in the reverse. And then there's people who live in the purple states like us who don't know what they are 1 year from the next. And that's interesting. People are like, well, I'll give it a shot until the next election, and then we'll see what happens. So a lot of growth in Utah. That's a red state. A lot of growth in Utah right now. They're seeing the growth that we saw in the early 2000s, like 5,000 new people a month are kind of moving to that state. A lot of growth in Idaho and a lot of growth in Wyoming. So we're seeing some really big shifts across the nation, and Vegas is included in that. Thank goodness.
Going back to the identityless identity of Vegas, there's all these different subplots and subcultures. Yeah. And even though it has been Democratic the last few elections, there are a lot of conservatives here as well. And I feel like the mix is pretty...
It's pretty balanced.
It's pretty balanced. Right? Yeah. Even when we had like the protests out here, there was nothing really violent. Right. Like everyone got together. I had on Stretch Sanders, who held the 6,000 person protest on here. And he was just so proud to talk about like how there were 6,000 people there of all different races and cultures, and there was no violence. And that's not something you see happen along the West Coast, but here it does, because people are so loving of their city and of each other. Yeah,
I mean, we've definitely seen some sad moments of, police officers losing their lives, and certainly some people, there's moments where it can get unruly, but by comparison, I'm really proud of how our city has handled everything that's happened this year. And I know everybody wants to get down on Sisolak and they want to get down on, the casinos, and everybody wants to get mad about something. And I get it, right? I want to be mad too, right? Who doesn't want to have a little bit of a temper tantrum? But at the end of the day, nobody could be prepared for this. Nobody knew what the hell to do.
So
Nobody,
true.
and especially with no true guidance from leadership above, like whether you're for or against Trump, at the end of the day, there's not really been a ton of help for the states. So I think that these governors and these poor commissioners, I mean, all these guys are just really doing their damn best. And, we gotta put our arms around them and just realize, like, whatever we do, we just got to do it together. So
it's basically a shitty situation that no one can really recover on all levels.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You just have to band together. And the city has done that. Vegas strong.
Yes.
That unfortunately happened with the October 1 shooting, but I think that idea has been kind of ingrained into our culture now.
I couldn't agree more.
That we work together no matter what it is. And you even saw with some of the casinos, like when the local ones, when Palazzo, where they basically paid their employees through the non-corporations one, because they know that they have to help out the city and that the city always gives back at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like when I go back to small businesses, looking at the small businesses of the city, that was the big deep breath that I took earlier this year, wondering, oh my God, what's going to happen? I was doing these segments with Channel 13, our news channel, every Friday. I was doing a segment where I introduced a new small business. And
Really?
it was just the best thing I've ever done in I think to date. And I was just so pleased about it, so excited about it. And we had to pause on all those. And I just started thinking, oh my God, like I had all these shoots booked, and one by one, I started to see these businesses either decide to close their doors or make alterations to what they even offer just to be able to stay alive. And if anything, I definitely learned resilience just by watching that. And I'm eager to see what happens in the next few months as we work through whatever the hell the next phase of this craziness is and see who's standing, and I'm excited to promote that. We do so much small business promotion, and that'll likely be a large, when I do step into podcasting again, that'll likely be a big focus for me, especially here in Vegas. But it's just been really special to kind of see everybody put their arms around each other. And I've been doing this a long time, but I've had a few business owners reach out to me and say, thank you for always buying things and then giving them away and promoting me, because most people reach out and say, can you give me free product? I'll promote it. And you've never once taken anything free. You actually refuse when we try to send you something for free. Like it's a big deal to me to not only put my money where my mouth is, but also, continue that process. And it was cool to see some of these small business owners really appreciated it. And I think if more people could do that, we wouldn't be seeing such change.
It's true. When you're evaluating a small business, what is the most attractive feature? Do you resonate more with the owner and their message, or what the business is trying to portray and sell?
Good question. I probably just the brand overall, probably the overall mission and message, I think. But obviously, if they've got really cool products, get out of my way. I'm about to spend some money, right? So I don't know. If you can't tell, I love people. I love story. So much so that our business is Swell Story Media. Like we're very, very focused on story. I firmly believe story is what makes the world go round. And I get sad sometimes because I think about the millions and billions of stories that are untold that we don't even know about, these heroes in the world that nobody ever will have a clue of because they didn't have a PR person or they didn't have a social media or someone didn't make them go viral, So I'm always kind of digging for that story. And I think that's probably what draws me in the most. But man, if you got a cool product, forget it, get out of my way. But if you're a butthead and you have a cool product, I will not only not promote you, I will unpromote your ass, so.
Yeah, the business owners now are so ingrained with the image of the business now.
Yes.
I use this example often, but like Elon Musk, for example, right? When you think of Tesla, you think of Elon Musk.
I've never heard anybody say his name Elon. I've always heard Elon Musk. First of all, that's awesome. I'm going to start calling him Elon Musk. Go ahead.
Elon. I was in a Jewish fraternity and there was multiple Elons.
Right. So you know how to say it properly, obviously. Yeah. I'm just the white girl over here go, Elon Musker. Musk, is he the guy? Anyway.
Elon. So anytime you think of Tesla, you think of him. If you don't think that's right, think back to the time when he was on Joe Rogan and he smoked weed and the stock tanked like 10%. Even though the product Tesla is still exactly the same, nothing's wrong, but he is the image of the business. And now you take that idea and you translate it to places like Apple, where you think of Tim Cook and Bill Gates with Microsoft. And now it's beginning to trickle down to small businesses as well. And that's something that you kind of echoed.
Big time.
Which I had noticed.
Yeah. I'm a big believer. I do a lot of branding sessions with either realtors or small business owners or anybody who has an idea just for fun. I genuinely, we have a whole section of our house dedicated to branding sessions and filming. And it's like the studio set up because people come to me and come to us. I don't know how they find us or if it's through a friend, but it's one of my favorite things to do because I get a chance to my point before, scratch the surface, dig deeper, and even help the business owner realize, like, I know you think your business is this, but what you're not realizing is it's the why behind why you made this. It's what brought you to this place. Some very, very close friends of mine who just left Las Vegas officially, which of course broke my heart. But damn, was I not supportive of what they were doing, because they were leaving to build what they told me that they were going to build 4 years ago when we met. And it was, they wanted to build a glamping Canyonlands kind of experience for people so that they could pursue and push their idea of living off the grid while they're running a business to the rest of the world. And they freaking did it. They sold their house. They toured, they did one last round of, travel around the world and experienced, travel, because they're going to be out of money at some point soon, starting a business. COVID hit and they had to cut it about 6 months short, but whatever. They came home and they didn't sit around. They went and bought their land in Utah and by Canyonlands. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's absolutely stunning. It's up by Moab. Amazing, gorgeous. They bought this piece of land that nobody thought to do anything with. It's the only thing you can see going in and coming out of this very popular hiking ground in this Canyonlands. And they built they're living on the land, literally camping, living on the land, building a glamp site. And so we sat and did their entire, branding, and I taught them how to do social media. And they didn't want to tell the story of the COVID, and they had to sell their house and they sold all their belongings to make this happen. And I said, that's what people are buying.
So it makes you relatable.
That's what people are buying. They want to buy into your dream. They want to watch you living this dream. They want to watch you freaking figuring out how to cook food outside every single day of your life for the next however many years till you build a house. Like, this is craziness. People need this. And when they finally realized, oh my God, like, it's not about the perfect carpet that we put in the campsite or whatever we're going to do inside those tents. It's about the story behind it. Off and running. They were able to open early. They were booked solid the minute they opened, and now it's winter and they have to pause for the winter months, but it's really rad because they've now got a base that they can build from for the next season. It's great.
The founder of Whole Foods, his name's John Mackey. He actually just wrote a book about this called Conscious Capitalism. And I've only read a portion of the book, but basically he says that if you're a conscious builder, the majority of your customers, they're not only buying your product, but they're investing in your own well-being.
Yes.
Because they like the backstory, they like the mission behind it, and like how society's progressing is that a lot of business owners are kind of moving away from the pinching pennies, like you're cutting every corner just to save a few pennies. And now it's more about investing in your employees and investing in the customers while building that experience that brings them back, because that's what the new generations want.
I think you're right when you say people are investing in your well-being. I have a client, his name's Puss. He's like a big Puss, like Italian, from Chicago. And he's just the most adorable older gentleman I've ever met. And he and his wife just moved here. And it was the cutest thing the other day. His daughter said to me, my father loves you. He just absolutely just adores you. He tells me every time you do a video on YouTube, I got to click it because Laci makes money when we click the video. And I'm like, I never told him I make money when he clicks the video, because I really don't, not yet anyway. And she's like, he loves you so much. I mean, she goes on and on and on and on and on about how we have to click the video, and that he harasses his friends. Every time I have a video come out, he sends the video to all of his friends and says, please go watch it. Just click this and like it for my friend Laci. And I was his realtor. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, to your point, they want me to do well because I did well by them. And that's what matters.
And that's something that we were kind of touching on before we started recording too, is sometimes the best fans or the best guests that you have on the show are the ones who have like the smallest social media followings, because a lot of people use the number as a metric, even though you probably shouldn't, because there's a lot of fake followers and everything. But he probably doesn't even have social media, or he has like a low amount, but all of his friends are engaged with who he is. So, or if anything, they're clicking that so that Puss doesn't get mad at him, right? I mean, they're like, yes, sir, whatever you need, sir. Don't want to call a hit out on me, that kind of thing. So it's been pretty cool. It's been probably the joy of my life in the last year or two to just really be able to see people light up for our city, but then also recognize the real mission behind what I'm doing. I was so worried about being perceived as doing it to get sales, and I obviously wasn't doing that. So I've gone over and above of, I don't care if you buy a house. It's okay if you don't buy a house from me, but please listen to what I'm saying about the city, that it's been the joy of my life to go, wow, it's working. Like, people are hearing the real message. I'm not being perceived as some BS salesperson, because it's not me. It's not who I am. I have to say, before you came on, I was watching your YouTube channel a few times, and oftentimes I found myself watching a house like a tour video, but then you were doing like an informational, educational post next. And then the other time you're live streaming, just walking around the arts district.
Right.
And I was just like, man, next video. And then it would end and I'm like, I need to do something. And then like, next video, I need to watch it, because it was like I was living through you, vicariously through you. And it did not feel like a sales pitch at all. It felt like you actually were trying to spread your knowledge and your passion.
Thank you. It's very strange to have people show up. I think this is a weird shift that happened. I wonder if you'll feel this too. For the first year, people were mostly, I saw you on Instagram and that was fine. I feel like I know you, and that's fine. Then when I started doing more YouTube, because that's what you need to do, by the way, when you're rolling out marketing, just so everybody who's listening can hear me, choose one thing and get gangster at it first, do it for a year, then you can add another major platform, which is what I did. So anyway, went into YouTube, and then I started having people recognize me on airplanes and come up to me at downtown, and which was awesome, but I'm just like, I'm not a celebrity. And then I kept asking these people, where do you watch your videos? And every one of them said on their TV. So because my face was on a TV set, they assume I'm some sort of a celebrity, because we're ingrained in anybody on TV equals celebrity or whatever. But my favorite thing is when they show up and they say, oh my God, you're just like you are on the video. Like, I didn't know what I expected, but you're literally the same person as on the video. And I'm like, I don't know how to be anybody else. I don't know what you want me to be. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? It's just like this crazy
there's
moment.
no facade.
No, but I will say, I don't really watch a lot of my videos back. My husband, thank God for him, does most of my editing, so I don't have to, because I don't really like my voice. I don't like anything I have to say, but he does. Thank God he loves me so much. But what's cool about this is I will every now and then tune into one, or someone will say, that thing you said in that video, and I'll be like, I don't even know what I said. I got to go watch it. I don't even feel like I'm watching me. Like, I genuinely, when I turn on the video, I'm like, she's fun. Oh my God. She loves Vegas too. And then I'm like, shit, that's me. I'm watching myself. Like, it's happened so often that it'll happen with my husband, or like my best friend will be with me, and I'll be like, hold on, I got to watch this video. And I'll be watching it, and I'll start to like get into it for a minute, and then I'll pause it and I'll go, do I really look like that? Is that really what I look like? She's like, yeah, that's your face. I'm like, but I sound like that. That's me. That's me. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know why it just doesn't compute. I don't even feel like that's me,
Literally feels like a separate person.
Yeah. And it's all authentic, but it's so weird. And so when people meet me and they say, you're just like the videos, I'm like, okay, it's cool. I'm still humble. I'm still the person that I'm supposed to be. But yeah, this whole celebrity thing that's coming along with this is a little strange. I'm not going to lie. Got my first taste of it though at Podcast Movement. The first year we were invited to come and be a part of that. Chris was on a panel. And we had people race across the lobby. Laci and Chris are here. And we were like, what the hell? I was like, I'd only done like 2 episodes. I'm like, why are people mobbing me in the Dallas, or wherever the hell we were? I think we were in Dallas, with the Dallas, Marriott. Why are people mobbing me? And it was like, oh yeah. And so when people started saying stuff to me on the street now, my husband's like, it's just back to the old podcasting days. Just lean back into it, So it's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. Yeah. 2 points to what you're saying. First, as far as like platforms go, I had a little bit of a different philosophy. Mine was like, since I'm just starting and since there's so many podcasters out there, I was like, all right, I need to spread myself as thin as possible in the beginning. And I had this like weird thought about social media. I was like, do I create a business account? But even though the podcast is me, I was like, but it's the same voice. And everyone's like, you just have to create both. You have to create both. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I had like 2 different Twitter accounts, 2 different Instagram accounts. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, recently I just had mentioned that on the guest list pod Twitter account. I was like, hey guys, I'm actually going to consolidate everything starting the year over to my personal account, because I was like, I think at this point, the majority of people are aware I have a podcast. So that point is done. Like I've achieved that goal. Now it's time to consolidate and create more quality for you guys. So follow me on my personal accounts, because this is the way that was going. So I was kind of,
I think that's a great
similar
plan.
that you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first question everyone asks me when I'm giving them advice about social media, or I'm guiding them is, do I need to do a new account? What should my username be? They get all worked up. And my favorite thing Chris and I used to say is like, when people would say, I've been wanting to do a podcast for 10 years or 5 years or whatever, but I just can't find that name. I need that silver bullet name. And we're like, you realize like, there is no silver bullet. None of that matters. Nobody cares. It's what you do. It's the content you provide. But to your point, like spreading yourself thin is never the way to go. You know what I mean? You got to go hard, go all in, go deep on letting people really, truly connect with you, especially if it's something that's building off of your personal brand. Now, if you start I'm going to make this up, a camera company that basically is not it's tied to your persona, but it's not you, it's not your opinions, it's literally a product. Yeah, that would then make sense. Set up a separate account, feed to both, do your thing. But I'm a big believer for podcasters that, the promotion on your personal accounts is going to be the biggest thing for you up front, because you've got to leverage that in order to get that momentum to keep things moving and growing the way they're supposed to,
That was one of the ideas. I just had a brand expert on here, and he was basically like, at the end of the day, you're promoting you.
It's you.
So like you can be the yoga person on one account, and then you can be the camera guy on the other,
Right.
but it's still you. So why not consolidate everyone to one idea? And I was like, oh, that's actually a smart idea to do. So that's why I decided to make that decision. And I have to say, after I made that announcement, I was like, oh, fresh sigh
take a
of
deep
relief.
breath,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
It's like, oh, it's 2 accounts I don't have to deal with anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I mean, and you can definitely set it up to where you push the messages to everything. But when I say pick one and go gangster on it, it's let one of them be your serious focus. Let one of them be your baby for the year. Become best friends with it. Really entrench yourself. And then when you're good and you can do it in your sleep, now you can add something that's going to take a little bit more time. YouTube and Instagram are both extremely time heavy investments when it comes to, creating that content. So you don't want to just let it be on 2 platforms. It's just about the style and the voice and who you're speaking to is what matters, and how you go deep. So when I'm on YouTube, I'm speaking to YouTube people. When I'm on Instagram, I'm speaking to everybody on social media. All of that content should bleed over, but it's about the intention behind the content that matters.
No TikTok?
I don't do TikTok. My daughter, who is also on my real estate team, she's 20 years old. No, you cannot date her. You could date her actually, but anybody on the camera cannot date her. But she's 20. She'll be 21 soon. She did TikTok and started using it for real estate. I think she's Sav the Realtor or something like that on TikTok. It's hard. I think I've finally hit a moment in my life where I realize, okay, this is it. This is when you start getting, a little out of touch with things, because TikTok and Reels for Instagram are really difficult for me. I'm a put the camera in front of me and just let me talk, and then it's all good. But being creative and coming up with like a cool concept is like, I ain't got no time for that. But yeah, she actually went viral with one of her videos. She was trying to get David Dobrik to buy a house with her here in Vegas. So he's a YouTuber, if you don't know, but he was like, not you, again, I'm talking to the audience, sorry. But she was like tagging him in every post, and all his followers were trying to help her get him to see it. And yeah, she did pretty well with it. She's a dancer. I was a dancer. So she's using dance as a part of it and having some fun with it. But yeah, I think I'm too old for TikTok, for me to do TikTok.
See, I honestly feel it the same exact way.
It's hard.
I created one and I've messed around with it for a little bit.
Me too.
But I was like, I really feel more passionate about Twitter, and then Instagram's growing on me, and I have YouTube and I'm still doing all the editing and everything. I was like, I can't get back.
It's a full-time job.
Can't get back and spreading myself thin. You
can't.
It's like a trap. It happens all the time, especially in a place like Vegas where there's so much opportunity. There's so many distractions.
It's squirrel syndrome, genuinely. And I talk about that with a lot of realtors. I say, realtors are the worst, because everyone shows up at our sales meetings and wants to present the new product, the new hot thing. At one point it was, you got to do Facebook ads, got to do them if you want to get leads. The next one is, you got to be doing Instagram. You got to be doing this. You got to be texting people. Like, poor realtors, just let them do their freaking job. Let them focus on one damn thing. Stop presenting the next thing, because they're the type of people, and anybody who creates products for realtors knows they will buy anything. You tell me it's going to work, I'll buy it, and then I'll figure it out later, and then I'll probably never do anything with it. So if you want to do anything and create a product, please, by all means, look at the real estate industry. You could probably make a lot of money.
You have 19,000 potential customers.
Isn't that nutty? That's nutty? Crazy. And only out of the 19, there's only a certain percentage that's actually active. But, when the statistics are, most people don't make it, 80-something% don't make it past their first year. It's a hard business, and to be able to do what I did. The only reason I even created Las Vegas Gal, a separate account from my other account, Laci Vegas, is because I didn't want anybody to know I was doing it. That's the only reason I did it. And now I'm like, well, Graham, I probably could have had a couple more sales that first year if I would have told some friends, but to me, it wasn't about that. It was really, this is an experiment. And I say that to my team all the time. So we have our separate business account, the Cerrone Group, and we do that on purpose because it's their personalities. It's not mine, right? Las Vegas Gal is one thing this brand will definitely branch off and do other really cool stuff and TV and some other things that I've already got lined up. But then there's like this business that I created that I can't abandon if I want to go do other things, right? So that's when that stuff comes into play. It's okay, you're doing this podcast. Now you've decided 2 years in, okay, I've got the business. I'm going to spin off from this. This is going to be great. That's when you promote it through you, but you then, of course, create it and let it live and breathe on its own, create its own voice, its own personality. So you have the ability to still maneuver.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's what I'm doing.
So I want to go back to the real estate market, I guess, right now. At this point, there's a lot of real estate agents. It's a tight inventory.
Very tight. We're down to 2 months inventory.
It's crazy. A lot of people are worried because there's an eviction moratorium that might be lifted.
It's already been lifted, actually. It was lifted last month, yes.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my friends who runs an eviction company. Some were getting approved. The number he threw out it almost sounded fake.
Yeah.
He said it was like 175,000 houses or renters or people could be evicted because of that. If there is a massive supply that's added to the market, will we see a dip?
No, so I think if anything, what I've seen in Las Vegas, it's been hot for several years now. So this isn't just because of COVID, and I think that's important for people who are considering buying to know. It's not some big bubble we're building. This is true and genuine desirability and growth. In the last 3 or 4 years, what I've noticed is the city, when the inventory is low, the frenzy, everybody starts to compete. They start to overpay for houses a little bit. And then we get a little more inventory back, whatever it may be. The season comes or people decide that they have to sell in order to survive, whatever that's going to look like. And then it kind of brings it back down. But we don't see a dip. We've never seen a dip, at least not since the financial crisis of 2007, 2008. That's not what we're dealing with right now. We're not dealing with fraudulent banking and all the other kinds of stuff. We're literally dealing with a pandemic that is affecting the economy at large. So for me, I don't foresee a dip. I don't think that there's going to be a dip of any kind. By dip, it might just mean slowing down.
Like a cooling off period.
It would just be cooling off, or it would just be evening out. I would love nothing more to get back to the days when it's a little more even for buyers and for sellers, right? Right now, it's definitely a seller's market. They can dig their heels in. They can be total buttheads. And if you want that house, you're going to do what you need to do to get it. But right before this, when COVID just first hit, it was actually a pretty cool, balanced experience. It was not a seller's market, not really a buyer's market. It was right in the middle. It was scary because people were losing their jobs in the midst of our contracts. So then they'd have to cancel. And there was a lot of that fallout. But it was also really interesting to see everyone kind of recognizing, well, I'm not really be able to leverage this either, and neither can you. We're all kind of just hoping that we make it to the end of this 30-day period when we're going to do this. So let's all just play nice in the sandbox for a minute. It was really, it was beautiful. It was kind of cool seeing like humanity kind of show up a little bit in this queer, very non-humanitarian business that I work in. So
it is no doubt a seller's market.
Yeah.
I know rates are really low.
Artificially low right now. Yeah.
Is there a time limit on how long they're going to be low for?
We've been hearing from some of the experts that it'll likely be about 18 months is what we're expecting from a few months back. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Obviously, I don't do lending for a reason. I'm not good at math. I'm good at what I need to do for my job, and that's it. So that's what happens when you move and change schools every single year of your life, by the way, just so you know. But basically, what we're hearing is it's going to be 18 months of artificially lowered rates. And by low, I mean low. It's never been cheaper to borrow money ever in the history of the world than right now. We're seeing low rates at like 2%, 2.3%. Some of the other countries in the world are going negative on their rates.
That's insane.
I don't even understand how that works. I'm not, again, I don't do math, so I don't know, but I don't believe we'll go there. I think that that's going to cost too much money. It's just, that's an imbalance we can't afford, but I do think we're going to stay low for a minute. And what's awesome about that is most people don't realize when the rates are low, because again, a lot of people don't realize they can actually buy. They've never thought of it before. So we're teaching and educating people of the entire process kind of as we do this, but while they're low, it means you can get more house, or you can save money. So it's like either way, it really gives you a chance to either grow into the house you really want or save that money and actually, tell everybody how great Vegas is because you even saved money while you were buying a house,
Yeah, I hadn't even realized. I saw an infographic, which was kind of like perpetuating what you're talking about, where it's like the rates are now 2% before, I don't know what they're 3 or 4.
3.5, 4.
3.5, 4, where it's like a $300,000 house, you're saving 20 or 30,000.
Yeah. And you could either buy $20,000 or $30,000 more in a house. That's a lot more house, by the way, a lot more house. Or you save it.
You don't realize it. So basically, guys, like through the end of next year is probably a really good opportunity.
Good time to buy. And I think in the spring, we're going to see once the forbearances are, I think the forbearances end, I think they're going to extend them obviously for people who have pushed their payments to the end of their loan so they don't lose their house. I think that's going to be extended. But if it's not, or if people start to kind of wise up and realize it's a good time to sell, I think the spring is going to see some more inventory hit the market. March, April, May, I foresee that. It happens anyway on a natural basis as through the cycle of our business. But I feel like the minute we get just a little bit more inventory, I think we can take a little bit of a breath and and go at it. But what I don't want people to think is now's the time to gouge people and sell for way more, because your house still has to appraise for the value that we get. So it's really important to not get greedy and to just, if you need to sell, make the money you're supposed to make and move on, or hang on till March and list it with us and we'll get you a little bit more cash. So
I'm excited. I think I'm going to get a house next summer.
You better.
I've been waiting around for it for a while.
You just gave, you know who to call, right?
I got you. Yeah, I'm a big Bitcoin investor. So my thesis is like that'll be the top of the market while it's a cooling off period for real estate.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of.
It is actually showing to be that. Are you making
I
some
hope
money?
it's right. I've been holding off on this since 2017. So
So this year I made some big moves with my business. I actually brought in a business partner to help me scale and grow. He's done a little bit of what I've done, but he calls himself Blockbuster and I'm Netflix. Basically, he's like, oh, she's from Australia too, so he's got that awesome accent that I cannot do, so I won't try. But he's basically coming in to help me really take a look at it and set it up for mass scaling for what I'm trying to do. I meant it when I said I was trying to change this industry. I really am. I want to show people you can collaborate and still win. You can make people feel good. You don't have to show bling, and you can actually be a normal person and sell real estate and actually have people love it, and sell the city that you live in. But all that being said, he's so funny because he comes in and he's still working for a Bitcoin company. He actually is a major consultant for a very large Bitcoin firm in California. And every day, oh, Lace, you got to buy that Bitcoin. Oh, Lace, today we're up 200%. Oh, Lace, every day I go, damn it, I don't have any money put aside for Bitcoin. What am I doing?
You should accept Bitcoin for house payments.
I should, right? Payments. I should tell him, hey, as part of our partnership agreement, you need to bring in X number of, Bitcoin dollars. But I've had friends make $5,000 or $6,000 in a week because they're smart and they're buying when it's hot. So I don't know.
If anybody accepts Bitcoin on the market by the time I buy a house, then I'm literally just going to pay them Bitcoin and make it 100 times easier.
I think they tried to do that a couple years ago in Florida. I think, was that right? The first Bitcoin?
There have been some real estate purchases. It's been for bigger houses that were like 11, $20 million. And also like the regulations surrounding cryptocurrency was still in its infancy. Now it's a little bit still behind, especially
Always.
The U.S., just as like the strip is behind on the marketing, the U.S. government's always behind in anything that's innovative and has to do with technology. So they're still behind on the regulations.
Yeah.
I hope by then maybe they'll be like, all right, you can pay with Bitcoin and it's the same taxes and whatever the case is.
Always due to any industry that's so heavily regulated, like gaming and, real estate, things like that, they're always going to be behind. And it's sad, but it's also amazing opportunity when you're the person there that's kind of seeing the future and trying to like dabble in it,
The cutting edge.
I'm the tipping point for the real estate industry.
I hope so.
If that's my drop from this, I'm totally excited about that. I'm the tipping point.
Cha-ching. Laci, I always ask one question, same question to everybody on the way out. I'm ready for this question.
Let's hear it.
I'm ready for it. And I didn't bring it up before. There's multiple times I was going to bring it up, but I had to wait specifically because of this. So my question is,
nervous.
What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Oh man, I don't want to cry. So I have to like really suck this up and try to figure it out. Okay. I think the essence of Las Vegas to me means opportunity. And Las Vegas taught me how to dream, along with my husband, of course. But really, Las Vegas is a city that can teach you how to dream bigger than you ever dreamed, and actually give you the opportunity to make it happen. I don't think there's any other city I've ever seen or heard of that has such a beautiful blend of corporate and entrepreneurship kind of all in one. And like you said, like I really would love to know what the true entrepreneur number is here in the city, because I think we could put ourselves on the map with that kind of a statistic, and we could really invite the future leaders and the world changers to our city to do it from here, which I think would be freaking amazing. And I do feel like we might have the next Steve Jobs or someone like that, Elon Musk, in this city. I do feel it. I do feel like that they might already live here or they're going to in the future, but Vegas equals opportunity and neon love, baby. Neon love all day.
Where can all the listeners learn more about you?
You can go to Las Vegas Gal on pretty much any social media platform. You'll find me, Las Vegas GAL, like your gal. I do have a website, lasvegasgal.com. You could go there, but it's going to be updated in about 30 days. So just give me some time. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you see me on the street, please say hi. I really, really love meeting people if you can't tell. But check out YouTube, check out Instagram. That'll kind of give you the essence of what we're doing. And then if you could do me a favor and go and follow my beautiful team, Cerrone Group, on YouTube as well as on Instagram and Facebook, that would be great.
Hit that subscribe button, guys.
Smash it.
Smash it. Smash the like button. Laci, thank you for coming on. This is a very genuine conversation. I loved everything about it.
Thank you. This was my pleasure. And thanks for teasing me with the podcasting thing again. I think my husband's about to wake up to a microphone in his face tomorrow. Hey, bud, remember we were asking? Today's the day we're doing it again. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll definitely do this again sometime.
Great.
And thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.